There's one rein to each horse, and it goes straight through from here to the outside of each horse.
When we would go carriage driving, well, first of all, he'd take me on a different route every day, and I do not know how he managed to do that.
For decades, Balmoral has been more than just a royal residence. It is a place woven with memory, tradition, and quiet decisions that shape the future of the monarchy. But moments ago, a development emerged that few saw coming. In a move that's already sending ripples through royal watchers, Lady Louise has reportedly inherited Balmoral Cottage, while Queen Camilla was left entirely out of the arrangement. The decision has sparked immediate questions about what truly influenced it. Was this a simple family choice, or a subtle message from deep within the royal household? The quiet message Queen Elizabeth left behind. History's most powerful choices often occur in private, not before crowds. After 70 years of public speeches and ceremonies, Queen Elizabeth II left her revealing message not in a broadcast, but in a private note. When she died in September 2022 at Balmoral Castle, the world mourned and watched unfold. Ceremonies filled the streets of London. Gun salutes echoed through the city, their thunder marking the end of a historic era. Long lines of mourners stood quietly for hours, sometimes through the night, waiting patiently for a chance to pay their final respects. Television screens everywhere showed the slow and solemn procession of soldiers marching through centuries-old streets, their footsteps echoing through British history. It was a moment filled with tradition, ceremony, and global attention. Yet while the world focused on the royal funeral and its powerful symbolism, something much more personal was unfolding quietly behind palace walls. Like many people, the late Queen had left behind a private will. Unlike royal speeches or official announcements, this document was never meant for the public stage. It did not have to please politicians, satisfy public expectations, or respond to media headlines. Instead, it reflected her personal wishes.
Agriculture and trade, seizing the opportunities that arise from leaving the European Union.
Her own feelings and decisions, written honestly and privately. And within that will was a choice that surprised many observers. Part of the beloved Balmoral estate was reportedly left to her granddaughter, Lady Louise Windsor. Not to the future king, King Charles III, not to the Queen Consort, Queen Camilla, not even to one of the most senior members of the royal household. Instead, the Queen chose a quiet young granddaughter who had never chased publicity or demanded attention. At first, the inheritance might sound small. Reports suggest it may involve a cottage located somewhere within the vast Balmoral estate in the Scottish Highlands. But the true meaning of this gift goes far beyond the size of a building. That is because Balmoral itself is unlike most royal properties. Famous residences such as Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle belong to the British state. They are official homes connected to the duties of the monarchy. Balmoral is different. The estate was purchased in 1852 by Queen Victoria and her husband Prince Albert, using their personal money. Since then, it has remained a private family residence, passed down through generations of the royal family rather than owned by the government. For Queen Elizabeth II, Balmoral was far more than just a property. It was her sanctuary. It was the one place where the heavy responsibilities of the crown could fade into the background. At Balmoral, she could live a quieter and simpler life. Instead of royal crowns and ceremonial robes, she often wore practical boots and a headscarf. She walked her dogs across wide-open fields, breathing the fresh Highland air. She sometimes drove her own car along peaceful country roads, enjoying the freedom that public life rarely allowed her.
Continuing the vaccination program and providing additional funding.
Rather than grand state dinners, she hosted relaxed family barbecues, where conversation and laughter replaced formal protocol. At Balmoral, the monarchy felt less like an institution and more like a family. It is also the place where the Queen spent the final hours of her long and historic life. Because of this, giving someone a piece of Balmoral is not a casual gift. It is deeply personal. It means inviting someone into the most private and meaningful space of a monarch's world. And in this quiet, final gesture, Queen Elizabeth II chose Lady Louise Windsor. No announcement was made, no speech explained the decision. Yet sometimes, the quietest actions speak the loudest. And sometimes, silence can reveal more than words ever could. What's so special about the estate? Why would senior royals feel shortchanged over the estate? Let's delve into the details of the late Queen's escape from the crown. The significance of Balmoral Castle. To understand Queen Elizabeth II's decision, one must grasp what Balmoral Castle in the Scottish Highlands meant to her. Surrounded by wild hills, forests, and rivers, it offered something rare in her public royal life: privacy. Unlike formal palaces ruled by duty and tradition, Balmoral allowed the monarch human freedom. Here, the atmosphere softened. The rigid rules of palace life slowly faded into the background. The royal calendar loosened its grip, and time seemed to move more gently. The royal family would travel there every summer, often staying for weeks at a time. The transformation was noticeable. At Balmoral, suits and formal gowns were often replaced with simple country clothing. Family meals felt relaxed rather than ceremonial. The constant structure of royal engagements gave way to quieter moments. In this peaceful corner of Scotland, the Queen was not always addressed as Your Majesty. She could simply be Elizabeth, a wife to Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, a mother to her children, a grandmother enjoying the company of younger generations. She spent hours outdoors, riding horses across wide stretches of land. She walked along forest paths with her beloved dogs. Family members gathered in the evenings for simple conversations, laughter, and shared memories. These moments were far removed from the grandeur and ceremony of royal life. Balmoral offered something that even the grand halls of Buckingham Palace could never fully provide: a sense of normality. For the Queen, it was not just a residence, it was a refuge. That is why her passing there in September 2022 felt deeply meaningful to many people around the world. Rather than leaving this world in the heart of royal power in London, she died in the place where she had often found the greatest comfort. The quiet hills of Scotland became the final setting of a life defined by duty. In many ways, it felt like a full circle, and this is where the story of inheritance becomes especially symbolic. Imagine having one place in the world where you can completely be yourself, a place where expectations fall away and you feel truly at peace. If you had to pass that place on to someone else, who would you choose? Would you select someone because of rank, politics, or public expectations? Or would you choose the person who truly understands what that place means?
Many people say the first Christmas after losing a loved one is particularly hard.
For Queen Elizabeth, Balmoral was never only about royal titles. It represented trust, closeness, and family bonds. Observers of the royal family, often called royal watchers, have long noticed that invitations to Balmoral reveal something important about relationships within the family. Being welcomed there is not merely a formal gesture. It often reflects personal warmth and quiet trust. During the Queen's later years, Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, and his wife Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, were among the relatives who visited frequently. Their presence was steady, calm, and largely free from the public controversies that sometimes surrounded other members of the family. Their children, including Lady Louise Windsor, grew up spending time at Balmoral not as public figures, but simply as grandchildren enjoying time with their grandmother. Inside the gates of the estate, royal titles often carried less importance. Character mattered more. Loyalty mattered more. Genuine connection mattered most of all. This is why even a small cottage within the Balmoral estate carries deep emotional meaning. It is more than just a building. It quietly sends a message that cannot easily be spoken in public. You are part of this place. In a royal family where duty, responsibility, and public scrutiny often overshadow personal relationships, that simple sense of belonging becomes incredibly valuable. And sometimes the most meaningful gifts a monarch can offer are not crowns, titles, or grand palaces. Sometimes it is simply the quiet assurance that someone truly belongs. What makes Lady Louise the one to inherit the estate? What position does she hold in the royal family? Let's dive into the details of the quiet royal who avoided attention. Lady Louise Windsor. Lady Louise Windsor has largely stayed out of the public spotlight despite being born into the highly visible British royal family. Unlike many royal figures, she has grown up with remarkable privacy, leaving many people knowing little about her life. Born in November 2003, nearly 8 weeks premature, her arrival was medically delicate, weighing only 4 pounds and causing concern among doctors and family members. Her early life also included a health challenge, esotropia, a condition where one eye turns inward. She underwent surgery at a young age, which successfully corrected the issue, and the royal family managed the situation quietly to protect her privacy. From the very beginning, her parents, Prince Edward and Sophie, made it clear that they wanted their daughter to have as normal a childhood as possible. They carefully shielded her from the intense media attention that often surrounds royal children. While the central royal family frequently appears at major public events and ceremonies, Louise spent much of her early life growing up in a more private environment. She attended school, pursued hobbies, and developed her interests away from the constant glare of cameras. One of the most interesting choices surrounding her life involved her royal title. As the granddaughter of a reigning monarch, Lady Louise technically had the right to be known as Her Royal Highness Princess Louise. Many in her position would naturally use such a title, as it comes with tradition and recognition. Yet she never publicly adopted it. Instead, she continued to be known simply as Lady Louise Windsor. This was not presented as a bold rejection of royal privilege or a dramatic statement about the monarchy. Rather, it reflected the kind of life she had always lived, calm, modest, and largely out of the spotlight. In a royal family that, in recent years, has experienced very public interviews, controversial books, and moments of tension within the family, such quiet restraint stands out even more. In an environment where words often dominate headlines, silence can become a powerful form of expression. Lady Louise's quiet nature reflects a value that was deeply respected by her grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. Throughout her long life on the throne, the Queen believed strongly in discretion, loyalty, and dignity. She rarely revealed private feelings publicly and often preferred steady action over dramatic statements. Lady Louise seemed to embody that same quality in a natural way. One of the clearest moments showing her character came after the death of her grandfather, Prince Philip, in April 2021. Philip had a deep passion for carriage driving, a sport that requires balance, focus, and remarkable control. Over the years, he personally taught Louise how to drive the carriage, sharing both his skill and his love for the activity. Following his passing during a tribute event in his honor, Lady Louise took the reins of his carriage and drove it herself. She did not deliver a speech or seek attention from the cameras. Instead, she simply continued the tradition her grandfather had passed down to her. The moment was simple, yet deeply meaningful. Without saying a single word, she honored him in the most personal way possible. Observers noticed the quiet strength of that gesture, and so did Queen Elizabeth. Sometimes the truest measure of character does not appear in grand declarations or dramatic moments. Instead, it reveals itself through small acts of loyalty, respect, and remembrance, the kind that speak softly, yet carry lasting meaning. What makes Lady Louise the rightful heir of Balmoral? What kind of relationship did she have with Queen Elizabeth? Let's dig into the details of the shared relationship. A grandmother's pride. Among the many grandchildren of Queen Elizabeth II, one seemed to share a particularly warm and touching connection with the late monarch, her granddaughter, Lady Louise Windsor. While the Queen loved all her grandchildren dearly, observers of the royal family often noticed that Louise held a very special place in her grandmother's heart. Lady Louise, the eldest child of Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, shared a special bond with her grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. As the Queen's youngest granddaughter, she naturally received much affection, and royal observers noted their close connection. Born years after her cousins, Louise grew up during the Queen's later life, which may have deepened the monarch's tenderness toward her. Her difficult birth and early health challenges also strengthened the family's concern and compassion. According to royal commentator Joe Little, these circumstances made Louise's relationship with the Queen particularly warm and meaningful. Moments like these often bring families closer together. In Louise's case, it seemed to create a strong emotional tie between her and the Queen. As she grew older and healthier, it became clear that she possessed many qualities admired within the royal family. Now in her 20s, Louise has developed a number of interests that appear to reflect the influence of her grandparents. One of the most notable is her love for horses. She has become a skilled and confident rider, something that fits naturally within the traditions of the royal family, where horseback riding has long been a cherished activity. Yet Louise's passion goes even further than simple riding. She has developed a deep interest in carriage driving, a sport that was famously loved by her grandfather, Prince Philip. In fact, carriage driving became one of Prince Philip's favorite pastimes later in life, and he spent many years participating in competitions. Louise has proudly continued this tradition. She regularly competes in carriage driving events held in Windsor, demonstrating both dedication and talent. Watching her pursue the same sport that her grandfather loved has often reminded royal observers of the close relationship she shared with him. Beyond her equestrian interests, Louise has also focused seriously on her education. She currently studies English at University of St. Andrews, one of the United Kingdom's most respected universities. Known for its long academic history, the university has been home to several members of the royal family over the years. While managing the demands of university life, Louise has also developed a strong interest in military training. She has reportedly become very enthusiastic about the Army cadets and participates in related activities alongside her studies. Louise is a member of the university's Officers Training Corps, a program that offers students the opportunity to receive military-style leadership training while continuing their academic education. The program provides valuable skills such as discipline, teamwork, and leadership, and it has become an important part of Louise's university experience. In many ways, this interest in military service reflects another connection to her grandmother. During the final months of the Second World War, Queen Elizabeth herself joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service in 1945. At the time, she made history by becoming the first woman in the royal family to serve as a full-time active member of the armed forces. By showing interest in military training today, Louise appears to be walking in the footsteps of her remarkable grandmother. Her academic dedication, love of equestrian sports, and commitment to service all echo values that were deeply respected within the royal family. Together, these qualities paint a picture of a young royal who not only honors her family's traditions, but also carries forward the legacy of the grandparents who clearly meant so much to her. What does William, the heir to the crown, have to say about Louise's Balmoral? Would he protect the crown's legacy or personal interests? Let's find out. Prince William's subtle role in protecting the legacy. The passing of Queen Elizabeth II not only brought deep sorrow to the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, but it also set several important constitutional processes in motion almost instantly. According to royal tradition and law, the moment the monarch dies, the next in line automatically assumes the throne. As a result, her eldest son, King Charles III, immediately became king. Along with the crown came control over many of the late Queen's personal properties and private estates. Among the most cherished of these was Balmoral Castle, the Scottish residence that had long served as one of the Queen's favorite retreats. From a legal point of view, ownership had now changed hands. Balmoral was no longer under the authority of Queen Elizabeth II. It had passed to King Charles III as part of the private royal inheritance. But legal ownership is only part of the story. Emotionally, Balmoral remained deeply tied to the memory of the late Queen. The estate was not just another royal property. It was the place where she spent many of her happiest and most peaceful moments. Family holidays, quiet walks, and treasured gatherings had all taken place there for decades. For some members of the royal family, Balmoral carried an especially personal meaning. One of those individuals is Lady Louise Windsor. Her connection to the estate has long been considered special and deeply sentimental. However, keeping that connection intact after the Queen's death was not something that could happen automatically. Because the estate had passed to the new king, continued access and arrangements required understanding and cooperation among senior members of the royal family. This is where Prince William is believed to have played a quiet but meaningful role. William's position within the monarchy has changed greatly in recent years. Following his father's accession to the throne, he became Prince William, Prince of Wales, the title traditionally given to the heir to the British throne. That title places him directly in line to become the next king after Charles. Because of this, every action he takes now carries greater weight. Royal watchers, historians, and the public often look closely at his decisions, searching for signs of how the monarchy might evolve in the future. Supporting a smooth continuation of Lady Louise's place within the Balmoral estate may appear like a small gesture on the surface, yet in royal circles, such gestures often carry deeper meaning. It quietly suggests that William values certain qualities within the family: loyalty, steadiness, and respect for tradition. The modern royal family faces pressures that earlier generations never experienced. Today's monarchy exists under constant global attention. Social media spreads stories instantly, and public opinion can shift very quickly. A single controversy can dominate headlines across the world within hours. Because of this environment, the stability of the institution increasingly depends on individuals who help strengthen unity rather than create division. Lady Louise Windsor has built a reputation that fits this need remarkably well. Unlike some other figures connected to the royal family, she has maintained a low and respectful public profile. She has never openly criticized the monarchy. She has never tried to use her royal background as a way to gain financial advantage or public attention. Instead, she has consistently presented herself as calm, disciplined, and quietly supportive of the institution. For someone in William's position, these qualities matter greatly. His own life has shown him how painful family divisions can become when they unfold under public scrutiny. In the 1990s, the difficult breakdown of the marriage between King Charles III and Diana, Princess of Wales, played out in front of the entire world. The emotional strain of that period left a lasting impression on the young princes. Years later, further tensions developed within the family, involving William's younger brother, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. The distance that followed created new challenges for the royal household and drew intense media attention. Experiences like these can shape how a future monarch thinks about loyalty and trust. By quietly supporting Lady Louise's continued connection to Balmoral, William appears to be reinforcing relationships with family members who have remained steady and supportive through difficult moments. This approach does not necessarily signal favoritism. Instead, it reflects something far more practical. Every future monarch must gradually build a trusted circle of people around them, family members who can be relied upon to protect the institution's dignity and stability. These trusted relationships help prevent internal conflicts from growing into public crises. In many ways, William seems to be carefully shaping that circle already. And in that quiet strategy, figures like Lady Louise may hold a far more important place than many observers first realize. How does this arrangement affect Camilla? Has she felt entitled to the estate during the late Queen's reign? Let's take a look at Camilla in the middle of all these. The emotional complexity surrounding Queen Camilla. Queen Camilla occupies a significant yet often debated place in the royal family. As the wife of King Charles III, she serves as Queen Consort, supporting him during state duties and ceremonies. Her role within the monarchy is formally established, symbolizing stability, continuity, and loyal partnership. But royal life rarely exists only within official titles and ceremonial duties. Behind the grand palaces, state banquets, and formal appearances lies another reality: the deeply personal world of family relationships. Royal families, like all families, operate on two different levels. One level is public and constitutional, the roles everyone can see. The other is private and emotional, the relationships that develop quietly over decades. Camilla's story with King Charles stretches back to the early 1970s, long before he became king and long before his famous marriage to Princess Diana. Their relationship developed during their youth, but circumstances, expectations, and royal traditions led their lives down very different paths. Charles eventually married Diana in what became one of the most watched weddings in modern history. However, the marriage between Charles and Diana was far from simple. Over time, rumors, tension, and public scrutiny surrounded their relationship. Then, in 1995, everything changed when Diana gave a historic television interview that stunned audiences around the world. During that interview, she famously said there were 3 people in her marriage, a statement that instantly reshaped public understanding of the royal drama unfolding behind palace doors. Those words echoed across the globe, and deeply influenced how many people viewed Camilla for years afterward. Eventually, after Diana's tragic passing and many years of public discussion, Charles and Camilla were able to marry. Their wedding took place in 2005, but it was noticeably different from traditional royal weddings. Instead of a grand religious ceremony inside a cathedral, the couple held a civil ceremony at a government building. Even more intriguing was the quiet detail involving Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen did not attend the actual wedding ceremony. Instead, she chose to appear later at the reception that followed. Official explanations suggested constitutional and religious considerations influenced her decision. Still, observers could not ignore how unusual the arrangement appeared. Years passed, and the royal family slowly adjusted to its evolving roles. In 2022, during her historic Platinum Jubilee of Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth made a significant public announcement. In a carefully worded message, she expressed her sincere wish that Camilla would be known as Queen Consort once Charles became king. The statement was calm, respectful, and deliberate. It signaled official acceptance and recognition of Camilla's place beside the future monarch. Yet public declarations and private decisions are not always the same. A monarch's will, unlike a public statement, is deeply personal. It reflects private judgment rather than institutional responsibility. It reveals what matters most, not to the crown as an institution, but to the individual behind it. That is why Queen Elizabeth's decision regarding the cherished Balmoral property carries such quiet significance. Rather than centering this personal inheritance around the Queen Consort, she chose to leave it to Lady Louise Windsor, a younger member of the royal family known for her modesty and low-profile presence. This decision does not diminish Camilla's official role in any way. Camilla remains a central figure within the royal structure and continues to represent the monarchy alongside King Charles. But Balmoral represents something far more intimate than titles or royal duty. Balmoral is not merely a residence. It is a place filled with family memories, a private refuge where generations of the royal family shared quiet moments away from the spotlight. It symbolizes belonging, tradition, and the personal history of the Windsor family. By choosing Lady Louise as part of that legacy, Queen Elizabeth may have been sending a final, subtle message about the qualities she believed should guide the monarchy in the years ahead. Not loud ambition, not a public controversy, but steady character, quiet loyalty, and a deep respect for tradition. Sometimes the most meaningful messages from a monarch are not delivered through speeches or royal proclamations. Instead, they are left quietly behind, hidden in the choices they make when no cameras are watching. So, what do you think about Queen Elizabeth's choice? Would the royal family honor her wish? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.